In 1998, my daily schedule involved waking up at 7 AM, watching the latest episode of the original Pokemon series, going to school, coming home, then making deck after deck with my decent collection of Pokemon cards. This is why I was so excited for Christmas, or Pokemas as my 10-year-old mind thought of it at the time. It was a blistering hot Aussie Christmas. The tree was full of presents with my name on them. But nope, no Game Boy, no Pokemon Red or Blue. I got a tent or something. That morning, my best friend came over with his brand new Game Boy and copy of Pokemon Red. So we huddled around the tiny screen on the couch, chose Charmander, naturally, and witnessed what seemed like the greatest game ever. A few years later, I got the chance to play it from start to finish multiple times and loved every second of my Pokemon catching journey. 21 years later, I'm a lot older and hopefully wiser, but Pokemon really hasn't evolved that much. Pokemon Sword and Shield was my first Pokemon experience in a few generations, and being the first on the console, my expectations were huge. This was the chance to truly blow people away. The power of the Switch would allow for endless possibilities, new grand features, a massive experience that would leave us breathless. Instead, it's just a regular Pokemon game on the big screen. Yeah, it's still fun catching them all, or in this case, about half of them, but all in all, the experience is pretty much the same as the last generation, and the one before that, and the one before that, and this was disappointing. So let's take a look at what works well and what went wrong. After all these years, same old plot. You wake up one morning and set out on a journey to become a Pokemon champion by winning badges at gyms and then competing against the best. Your rival this time is Hop, whose brother Leon is the current Pokemon champion. After choosing your starting Pokemon, you head to a nearby forest called the Slumbering World, but you're soon driven off by a mysterious Pokemon. Your rival Hop constantly refers to it as the Mad Pokemon. Shut up, Hop, it is anything but mad. It's docile, it just stands there absorbing attacks and releasing some fog. Stupid Hop, learn your words. Anyway, during your quest to become a champion, you learn about two legendary Pokemon who saved the region from a crisis called the Darkest Day in ancient times. And that mad Pokemon that you encountered is one of these legendaries. As you journey around the region, the mysteries gradually build up through several key but unengaging scenes. The delivery isn't paced well or well written, and was something I just forced myself to get through so I could proceed to the next gym. It's also incredibly short, with the main story only taking around 20 hours and a couple more for the post-game story events. I'm probably repeating myself a bit, but I expected innovation and creativity with Sword and Shield, and as far as the story goes, there was none of that to be found. Pokemon's turn-based system is back. If you're unfamiliar, you can take up to 6 Pokemon into each encounter with one Pokemon in battle at a time. Then it's just a matter of selecting one of 4 moves to unleash, with the idea of exploiting the enemy's weaknesses. Dynamaxing your Pokemon is a new addition in Sword and Shield. During gym battles or certain other encounters, you'll have the option to supersize your Pokemon. This is kinda cool, but the movesets here are limited. If you have a variety of fire moves on your Pokemon, for instance, they will all upgrade to the same fire attack if that Pokemon is Dynamaxed. The Pokemon battle system really hasn't evolved much over the years. Fans of the series are getting more used to how things work, while the difficulty this time around is easier than ever, and this is one of my biggest complaints I have with Sword and Shield. The enemies that you face are just so incredibly easy, even without spending any time grinding. Towards the end of the game, I one-shot killed about 4 trainers in a row without even taking a hit. The need to strategize and prepare becomes redundant, and this took a lot of the fun out of the game for me. One of the biggest criticisms that hit Sword and Shield is the reduced Pokedex. For the first time ever, not all Pokemon are present, and I'll admit this was disappointing as loads of my favourites from the earlier generations were nowhere to be seen. Catching and training them works the same as always. For me, there was still that awesome feeling when one of my Pokemon evolved, especially if it was a surprise with one of the many new generation Pokemon, some of which are really cool. One of the big changes is that after battle, all 6 of your Pokemon receive experience points regardless of whether they participated in battle or not. In a way, this is good as it allows your weaker Pokemon to level up without risking them in battle. On the other hand, it's a contributing factor in making this game so damn easy. The many Pokemon that you don't regularly use can be sent to a box where they just sit there forever, unless you send them out on jobs, which will grant rewards. Jobs are a good way to give other Pokemon a purpose, but on returning from a job, they are just automatically placed in the first available box slot. This completely destroys any sort of management you've done in the past. This was so annoying, and it didn't take long for me to stop using the job feature altogether just because of this. Sword and Shield is set in the Gala region, which was inspired by Great Britain. As you would expect, the towns that you explore are separated by a number of routes, and this is where the wild Pokemon are located. As with most other elements to the game, the amount of routes have been reduced, this time to 10. Compare this to Pokemon X and Y's Kalos region, which has 22 to explore. The long grass located on these routes are where the wild Pokemon live. Most of them are visible, which is good when trying to catch particular Pokemon. Some, however, cannot be seen and appear as an exclamation mark. Scattered throughout the Gala region are loads of trainers that you can face, and as before, they'll initiate combat with you if you cross their eye line. A new feature here is the Wild Area, which is essentially a large open location full of different Pokemon and max raid battles that allow you to team up with 3 other players to take on Dynamaxed Pokemon. This idea itself is good, but it needs a bit of tweaking. For example, when playing online, you can make interactions with other players, but this is so incredibly laggy that it was completely unplayable for me. As a result, I only ever explored the wild area offline. The game itself looks decent enough and is full of detail, even if it doesn't reach the full capabilities of the system. I found the towns to all be unique and full of life, but it's the excessive pop-ups that hinder the experience. Look, there's an Onix. There's not an Onix. There's an Onix again. I could do this all day. The gyms are also huge and feature massive crowds cheering you on. I always wondered why so many people would want to rock up to watch an aspiring Pokemon trainer like me defeat a gym leader in literally under a minute. But hey, whatever floats your boat. I personally think they should have saved these massive crowds for the final championship matches, as it would have really helped highlight its importance. The soundtrack also does its job. Most of the tracks didn't really stick with me, but there were a few decent battle tracks, such as the main gym battle theme that incorporates crowd chanting. And in true Pokemon style, there's no voice acting either, and I thought this would have been a welcoming addition for the debut console title. I came into Pokemon Sword and Shield wanting to be blown away. I was hoping that the series' first console title would take the series to the next level in terms of quality and scope. Instead, I felt like all I got was a pretty little Pokemon port for the big screen. The core Pokemon experience is still here and perhaps as good as ever, with numerous quality of life improvements. The design of the Gala region also deserves some praise, but the technical issues such as pop-ups and online performance did impact the experience for me. The complete lack of challenge and limited Pokedex and content in general really held the game back for me, and at the end of the day, my expectations were not met. With Sword and Shield's metascore so low, I really believe that for the next installment, developers Game Freak need to carefully think about how to make long-term Pokemon gamers happy. This latest title was clearly a disappointment for many, and I can see why. What did you think of Sword and Shield? Let me know in the comments. This was Hellfire RPGs, thanks for watching. If you liked this, hit like and sub for more RPG content. See you next time.